is here. The Way to Break Free with your host, Angela Pedigo, will light a flame within you. Host Angela Pedigo is an author, speaker, and certified life recovery, grief, and joy restoration coach. Angela uses her own life experiences to help you navigate and guide you to success. She also has developed tools that incorporate her faith and her drive to overcome any obstacle in life. So please welcome the host of The Way to Break Free, Angela Pedigo.
Welcome, everybody, to The Way to Break Free. I am your host, Angie Pedigo. I'm so glad you could join us today because we have a very special treat. We have someone who is super well known around our area. We absolutely love her. She just gives selflessly. She gives 100% plus to everything she does. And it's just a really good pillar in our community. And so everybody meet Miss Debby Holland. Debby, we're so glad that you're here today.
Thank you.
So I appreciate you coming out today and be willing to share your story. And just, I've heard little bits and pieces of it. And so I'm just super excited about this opportunity. And there's something in it for everybody.
I hope.
Yeah, something in it for everybody. Mm-hmm. So I don't care who you are today. I don't care what you're dealing with. You won't want to miss this just to get your cup filled up at least. So let's dive in.
Okay, I'm ready.
Miss Debby, we served together on a board at a nonprofit, and she came into my life a couple years ago, and I just fell in love with her. She helps so much and cares about so many people and has more love to give to more people than you can imagine. So that started, though. You've probably been that way all your life, but I know one of the things that you are most well known about loving them kids is your passion for teaching,
right?
Which was her career. So tell us a little bit about that. What led you to want to be a teacher?
Well, I just always liked children.
Yes.
Starting at 12 years old, I was babysitting at full time, just about, and it just led into that. That's where I thought I needed to be.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to talk, as everybody knows around here. So it just seemed like the natural direction to go in my life. I had great parents that were good teachers. And so that just seemed to be where I headed.
It just came natural.
Yes.
That's awesome. Well, that's one of the spiritual gifts is being a teacher.
Yes.
So that's beautiful.
Yeah.
How many years did you spend teaching?
I taught in the school system 33 years and then retired and found out that the retirement check wasn't very much. So I went back into administration for the last 5 years.
Oh, nice.
So I've been retired from the classroom since 2010.
Oh, okay.
And I miss it a lot at times. But I don't miss the hassle that the poor teachers go through now.
Yeah, I bet.
Everything they do.
What grades did you teach?
Basically, fourth grade was my overall the most out of those 33 years. And then I was a guidance counselor for kindergarten through ninth grade for 10 years.
Nice.
In which that time, my husband finally said, "You need to go back to the classroom. You're going to kill someone." So I would get so angry at parents, unfortunately, a lot. And, for my mental sake, I had to go back to the classroom.
I get that.
But I think it made me a better teacher. I was more aware of what children go through in their homes, a lot of children.
That is one area of service. I've actually been talking to some different folks in the school system that say, why don't we know these things? And what do we need to know? What do you think teachers do? What would benefit them the most if they had extra assistance in learning about those kids that way?
Well, when I first started teaching, we had to make home visits as a teacher. We had to go to everyone's home.
Really?
That we had their names. Yes, we did. And that was great.
Wow.
Because there were some of them that you thought, oh my word, if this child just gets to school today, it's an accomplishment.
Yeah.
Well, we got away from that. And as teachers, then we didn't want parents around. But you really need to know the background of your children that's in your classroom. And lots of times that falls directly on the classroom teacher to find that out.
Yeah.
which ones are being fed at night, which ones are, have the things that they need.
Yeah.
All that. And back in the dark ages when I first started teaching, we were allowed to do more.
Yeah.
I can remember giving a child a shower that came to school dirty.
Yeah.
Those types of things.
Yeah.
That we need to still be aware that that's stuff that needs to be going on.
Yeah. Yeah. And when there's a gap between the student, the teacher, and like the situation, it's probably harder to build empathy in some cases.
Yes.
Or to be able to meet them where they're at.
Yeah. Oh, I can remember saying, "Get your head up. Pay attention to me." All this stuff. And then when you find out they never went to bed.
Yeah.
It gives you a whole new aspect.
Yes.
Now I just pat them on the head and go back to sleep. Just go ahead and sleep a little while. That type of thing.
Yeah.
So it makes it difficult for a teacher to be able to teach so many the diversity in the classroom.
Well, and two, having to be able to meet them where they're at.
Yes.
Just sometimes that's the best thing you can give them that day.
Right.
Teachers wear so many hats.
Oh.
I don't think people who aren't teachers realize that how many hats they wear.
They're everything.
Yes, you've got to be everything to that child for that time period that you have them. It's kind of like when we go to work. We spend more hours with their work family than we do with our own family. And students aren't far off from that.
No, they're not.
And they don't work 40. I mean, they're not at school 40 hours, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah, thank you for all the
it was
pouring
I
into
loved
the
it.
kids that you did throughout the years. I know that the kids and their parents and the grandparents, anybody is grateful for that.
It was a great time.
What do you think? You talked about you don't miss the things that teachers have to go through today.
Right.
Enough to go back to doing it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think teachers have as their biggest struggle today?
Well, in the news, you hear everything about the test and all this stuff. It's hard for me to imagine thinking a test tells the capability of a child.
Amen.
That is just so crazy to me, just plain crazy that people would think that. And so I get frustrated with administration, not local necessarily, but state levels and federal, and just thinking, what are you all thinking?
Yeah.
You've got a non-reader in your classroom and you've got one that's 2 levels above everybody else. And what are you wanting me to do here?
Yeah.
And the struggle is real.
Yeah.
I mean, these teachers, and we've got some fantastic teachers in this county. Mm-hmm. And I just think, bless your heart. That's about all I can say for you.
We need to pray for them.
We do every
students.
Every day.
Because the pressure ultimately falls back on the students for performance.
Yes.
Yes.
And the anxiety that it creates. And those 5 years I said I went back to administration, that was evaluating teachers. Mm-hmm. So I apologize to any of you teachers out there that I evaluated. That was just an added stress to them. Here I am sitting there scoring you on whether you say the right thing or do it the right way.
Even if you didn't agree with it, you still had to do that job.
So,
yeah. Oh, that had to be trying.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Well, so you had this love for kids and you, kind of getting some of that absorbed through the students and things. Right. But then there came a time where
we wanted our own.
You wanted your own, right?
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about that.
We'd been married probably 3 years when we decided we were, according to Tennessee, we were a little older than most people that got married down here. I was 24 and he was 27 when we first married. So 3 years into the marriage, we decided to try to have children, and we tried for 7 years, which I did finally get pregnant. Went to the doctor because I was having some problems, and he said, quote, "Go home and wait to miscarriage."
No.
Well, duh. I've been trying to get this way for 7 years. So it was just like a slap in the face. So I go home, and 12 weeks later, I still had not lost the baby. And come to find out, I was having a tubular pregnancy.
Oh, my.
So by the time they got that corrected, it had already destroyed my fallopian tube and everything.
wow.
So that made it, then I couldn't have children later. So we talked about doing all these other procedures that back in the 80s was not a big thing, but you had to go to Vanderbilt at that time. And we did that route for a while. Felt like we were kind of wasting our money that we could save and maybe adopt. And so that's what we chose to do. So after we'd been married 10 years, we had our son.
Aww.
And we got him when he was 3 months old.
Oh, wow. Well, let's go back to the years you were trying.
Mm.
How hard were those years?
Very hard on a marriage,
Yes.
I have to confess. If we hadn't had our faith in God,
Yeah.
I believe we'd have both just said, forget it.
Yeah.
or you go find somebody else and, whatever.
Yeah.
You would go to the doctor together. It was embarrassing.
Yeah.
People were all the time, why don't you have kids? Why are, da, 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 da.
I hear that from a lot of
Yes.
people. If I could tell the world anything, please do not put pressure on newlywed couples
That's right.
who do not have children yet, because there's things that are private between that husband and that wife that is nobody's business.
Right.
But then they're feeling the pressure of parents wanting grandkids,
Right.
or just that's the next step kind of
that's
thing.
what you're supposed to do.
That's what you're supposed to do. And it's okay if you don't want to procreate.
Yeah.
It's okay if you, I know sometimes people have conditions, maybe health conditions that are in their family, and they're afraid to have a child because they don't want to, what if, that my child could end up with this kind of condition. We don't know what goes on behind closed doors between a couple. And so for us to throw our expectations out on them, like I coach people who get so stressed because people around them are expecting them and putting pressure on them to have that child. Please just stop. Please just stop. This is a testament to that, though. But so
you even come to the point where you'll tell people, "Oh, we've decided not to have any,"
just to get them to leave you alone.
Yeah.
And it's hard enough when you're going through that moment. We're trying. Y'all don't know we're trying, but we're trying, and it's not happening. So you putting the pressure is just like another throwing salt in the wound.
And it's a grieving every month when you find out you're not. It's just, here we go again.
Yeah.
And this type of thing. So, that went on for a long time. And the stress, and people, again, were always so nice about, well, if you just relax.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm relaxed.
That's easy to say when you're not in my shoes, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So it just, we just decided that, maybe adoption was the correct way to take care of.
So before you got pregnant with the tubal pregnancy, had you gotten to a point, I hear this a lot with people who are struggling to get pregnant, that the pregnancy generally occurs about the moment you give up.
I've heard that.
Yeah. Was it that way for you?
No. Well, honestly, I better back up. Honestly, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I was so frustrated during all that time that I don't really know what was going on.
Gotcha.
I've also heard once you get pregnant, once you adopt, you'll get pregnant.
Yes,
I've heard that one too.
Yeah.
And so it's just different for everybody.
It is different for everybody. There's no one size fits all. So you got to adopt.
Yes.
And he was 3 months old.
3 months old.
So sweet little baby.
Oh, yes.
When did you meet him for the first time?
I was teaching school out at Enon at that time, which was way out in the country, counseling. And we got our phone call that our little boy was ready for us to come get him. We didn't even know he was ready.
Did you know you were getting a son at that point?
No. The strange thing, we had gone for our interview, and he told my husband and I, go home and pretend like you're pregnant, because in 9 months you'll probably have one. So we feel like they already had somebody kind of picked out for us.
Yes.
We went through an agency where we wrote up biographies and did all this stuff.
What was that process like? Was that hard?
Yes, very detailed. This, again, would be in the 88, 87 and 88. A lot of medical things that we had to go through,
Mm-hmm.
Testing, house inspection, lots of paperwork. We didn't have any group here in Macon County, so everything was out of town. Our adoption was out of state.
Oh, wow.
We went through an agape church organization. And so
do you think that made it better?
Yes.
Going through them?
It did for us.
Yes.
It was the right thing. At that time, well, I don't even know what you call it now, Human Services Department, they were not even letting children be adopted during this time.
Oh.
It was a closed type thing.
Okay.
Because in the state of Tennessee, we are the lowest ranking state in people giving their children up for adoption.
Oh, gotcha.
Okay. So there's very few babies adopted out of the state of Tennessee. In fact, both of ours, neither one were from Tennessee.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. And so we went to North Carolina and had our interview, came back and waited. And it was about 9 months when we got the phone call.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So they may very well have had someone
in mind. Mm-hmm.
And you just get a call. I have no recollection or no knowledge at all that this is about to happen. What was that moment like?
Well,
did you believe it?
What happened? I scared. They called me at school, like I said. And I screamed, and that scared everybody. I mean, I can remember the poor secretary sitting at her desk going, what's wrong? And I'm going, and as I was trying to travel back, I don't even remember getting back to Lafayette. I just,
really?
Got the car and drove home and got a hold of my husband, and off we went.
What was his reaction like?
Let's go.
I can see it right now.
I'm ready. So it was, and it became a snowstorm, and we were so afraid we wouldn't get him.
Now, did you have to go out of state
to
get him?
Yes, we did. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So we went, met his foster family, that he had been staying with a foster family, very sweet people. Then the next morning we had a ceremony. And videoed it. He used to love to watch his video of when he was adopted. So he enjoyed that.
Did you celebrate the adoption day?
Oh, yes. Biggest party you've ever seen.
I do see parents do that, that have adopted, and they're proactively discussing it with their child.
All the time.
They'll have their birth date, and they'll have their adoption date, and they're one's as big as the other.
Yeah.
I think that's precious, though.
Yeah.
We
did.
That is beautiful. It takes special people to adopt a child, and that's hats off to you for that.
Thank
you.
Sure. It was not even a thought that, and what we told him his whole life was, she loved you more than you have any clue that she loved you, or she couldn't have given you to someone else.
Yes.
So I never wanted, or any adopted child, to feel like they were not loved. They were loved.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard somebody explain it one time to a child that had been adopted and said, you're extra special because we got to choose you. Like when you have a child, you're not getting to choose its looks, its little hair color, it's all the little things about it. But when you are choosing a child,
it's so special.
That's picked, and that is beautiful. So let's touch on that for a minute, because there may be people out there listening that are on the fence about adoption. What were the pros? What were the cons? Were there any? Like, what were you in that time period weighing out? Honestly,
at that time, we really didn't think much about it because we wanted a child so badly. As the child got older, we began to have probably more concerns about health issues, because we would see them do things and we're thinking, where did they pick that up at? Personalities were so different from my husband and I's. So little things like that began to play a part. With Sam ending up in addiction, it was in our mind, okay, was there something going on? Was there a hereditary thing? I really did not know that hereditary played such a big part in a child's life until all this. I always thought, just love them enough and everything will be fine.
So when you sign up for something like that, and whether it's adoption or it's foster parenting or whatever else, you're kind of, I guess you have to go into that in mind that I'm taking this child, just like you would a marriage. I'm taking this child for better or worse.
No matter what.
I don't know what tomorrow holds, but I know that I'm committing to see them through that.
Yes.
You know, it's not like, okay, now I need to change my mind or let me stop loving them because they're not the same as us or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it's that unconditional love.
Unconditional love. And it's there. I had people tell me, well, you can't love an adopted child as much as you can your biological one. And I'm thinking, I feel sorry for you.
Yes.
I mean, I love my students in my classroom. I could have took them home with me.
Yes.
So, you know, that's not true.
I can see that for sure. And you have, you know, it takes special people for that. You know, you have to have a heart for it as well. You know, whether it's adoption, fostering, whatever it might be, you have to have a heart for that. How did you get through all those times? Like the miscarriage, the trying to get pregnant, then the miscarriage, and then the adoption process and all that. How did you keep hope?
Well, we had both on both sides of our family, very supportive family. God has always been the center. Even with God, there were times that I thought, what are you doing to me? What have I done to cause all this to happen to me, feeling sorry for myself. You know, that still comes up at times. You know, some of us that have not had children, you know, the biggest problem going to the Walmart and watching people jerk their kids around. You just want to go up and knock them in the head and say, give them to me.
Yeah.
I can do this.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of feel sorry for myself, but then, you know, my church family, people that I knew that loved me were always there to give me that little bit of support that I needed at the time. God always knows what you need, and you'll get it if you're listening.
And He will build a family around you. And sometimes that family is your biological family, and sometimes that family is just the people that you know, you have a sense of community with, and in your church groups. This is why, you know, a lot of times people, especially this day and time, don't want to get involved in churches but there is something about coming together. But Jesus wouldn't have continually told us to come together if we didn't need to.
Exactly.
And that's where we draw support from one another. You know, verse after verse in the Bible, it talks about, you know, iron sharpening iron, and, you know, woe to the one who doesn't have somebody to pull him up when he's down, you know. You know, I always go back to thinking about the crippled man who couldn't walk, the lame man, and his friends carrying him, you know, to get to Jesus for healing. And we need friends. We need friends that'll pack us a country mile.
Right. and those friends need to know what we're going through. That's what I find now. People don't want to let you know, or they consider that a weakness.
Yes.
And I did too. Pride.
Yes.
You know, who are you going to tell you can't have a kid? You don't want, you know, that's just no. So we as people also need to reach out. We've got to let people know so they can help us.
Yeah. There's so many people out there that will pray for each other. But like when we do in like our recovery groups, pray. I try to tell people, whether I'm coaching, whatever we're doing, pray in specifics.
Yes.
And when you pray together, you know, Matthew 18:19 says, if any two of you agree touching any matter on earth, that my Father will hear and He will answer. So there is something powerful about coming together in agreement to pray over something. But, you know, not just generalizations, but what are we specifically going to pray for? And if we have too much pride and we can't use our voice to say, this is what I need, will you pray with me? Or, you know, if I saw you hurting, to come to you and say, I see you're hurting. You may not want to talk about it, but if you could ask God for one thing right now, what would it be? And let's just go to the throne together right now in this. I mean, I've seen mountains move for that. So we kind of people will hold on to that pride, I think, as a means of self-protection.
It is.
But at the same time, they're forfeiting some healing, some tapping God in, mountain moving kind of stuff, you know. So that is good. What advice would you give to somebody who's considering adopting? and maybe they're on the fence about it.
Come talk to me.
You can find
you can find me. Or, there are, we had difficulty finding an organization or a group. It depends on what kind of adoption you want, where you need to go. Closed adoption, open adoption, those types of things.
What's the difference in those?
Closed adoption is like what we had. We don't know the birth parents of our children. We have some history about them. Open adoption is that you would know them, basically. Our children had to ask to find out who theirs were, if they choose to. And in open, they may even know them, see them, that type of thing during.
So I'm glad you brought that up. I have friends that have adopted children, and you see parents handle these things in very different ways. Some choose not to tell the child. Some choose to make that a part of their journey in their life, the whole way. Some parents, and maybe this comes more with the closed adoption thing like you're talking about, but I know that some parents fear the day that child's going to come and say, hey, I want to find my biological family. Right. Did you ever have that fear?
We talked to both of our children about that, probably when they were 12 years old, is basically when we presented with them. They knew they were adopted from day one, but we presented with them. We have records. When you think you're ready to know about them, we'll be willing to share this with you. My son, Sam, automatically goes, I don't want to know. Typical boy. I don't care. And never seemed to really care. Now, my daughter was the opposite. She has all her papers now. She has basically found her biological family. Okay. It hurts in some ways, but in other ways, I would want to know.
Yeah.
I would probably want, basically, again, for health purposes.
Well, and that is so bold and courageous and mature of you to put yourself in their shoes. If it were you, would you want to know?
That would be my personality to know.
Yeah.
Just for the mere fact too, to find out what the situation was, even though we kind of told her. We knew she had some siblings, and so those things would be important to know. You've got a sibling out there.
Yeah, definitely. Well, that's beautiful. So you had, what was the age gap? The
5
age
years.
5 years. So
fuss and fight all the time.
When did you decide, let's do this again?
Right after we adopted the first.
Really?
Yeah, we were ready we wanted another one.
Wow. So did you intentionally plan for it to be 5 years?
No, it just took that long.
Okay, what was the difference?
Well, the difference is a lot of times, they get to pick out the adoptive parents, the groups we went through. So a lot of times they don't want them to have, they've already got one. Let's give our child to somebody that doesn't have one. Gotcha. With our case, the lady finally wanted somebody that already had some children, so her child would have a sibling. So it just took a lot longer. The cutoff line too, if anybody's adopting, is usually age 40. Oh, okay. So we were 39 when the last one came. Oh. So we were pushing it. So that's another thing to consider, your age.
Now, how old was your second one when you got it?
She was 39. I was 39 when she came, 35 when Sam was born, and 39 when Lee was born.
Was she 3 months too?
She was 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
She was 3 weeks old. Yes.
Got the newborn.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Wow. What was that like?
We got to go through all the colic. Sam was already over all that, so we got to go through the fun stuff with her. Yeah.
You got the full dose of it.
Full dose of it. Yeah.
Would you change anything?
No, not really. No. Not really.
Yeah.
Not as far as that's concerned. I would try to be a better mother, but
everybody. We all would say that. I had to coach people all the time that fear, I'm going to fail my child. Yeah. I said, just go ahead and do this right
Okay,
here.
yeah, because you're
Welcome
going
to the club,
yeah.
because we're all going to make
Yeah,
mistakes.
make mistakes. So.
Yeah, we put too much pressure on ourselves
we do.
sometimes that we can't enjoy the moment. I think.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's good stuff. Now, let's get into, you were talking about the personality shifts, the personality differences. When did you really start noticing, hey, like there's something different. There's
Okay.
something going on with him.
With the drug addiction?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Basically, high school,
Okay.
he got to where his grades were really bad.
Mm-hmm.
I went to parent-teacher conferences and didn't seem like anything happened. I even went at one point and asked them, do you think he is on drugs? No, he's just a boy. That was the comment that I got. And at the time, as a teacher too, I would have probably shrugged stuff off because we weren't trained to look for these things as school teachers either. But Sam played sports and he was all the time getting hurt. Bless his little heart. And there were a few serious incidents where he had to take some pain medication.
Oh, yes.
And that is, according to him, how it started. Then he had a shoulder replacement when he was in college, freshman in college, which was not a good situation for him.
Hey, Angie?
Yes?
You were supposed to go to break at 12:29.
It's not showing up.
Well, that's okay. That's all right. Just try to wrap up, and then I can send you to a commercial.
Well, we'll do that. We'll do that. So let's. College was not a good place
for him.
Did he play sports in college?
No.
Okay.
No.
We'll jump to a commercial break, and we will come back and pick up there from his college days. That'll be a good point to pick up from. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after the break.
What if there were a super tiny device that could diagnose the brain and is smaller than a single human hair? What if you could see inside the brain to help an epilepsy patient during surgery or to help the fight against Parkinson's disease? Dr. Patricia Broderick is proud to announce the Broderick Probe, a biomedical and electronic breakthrough. Imagine a probe to help with the understanding and potential cure of brain-related diseases. To learn more, listen live to the Easy Sense radio show with host Dr. Broderick, Wednesdays 7 p.m. Eastern on the Bold Brave Media Network and TuneIn Radio. And to help support the Broderick Foundation, please go to EasySense.com and learn how, with your help, we can fight these horrific brain disorders. That's EasySense.com to learn more and help support the Broderick Foundation. Author, radio show host, and coach John M. Hawkins reveals strategies to help gain perspective, build confidence, find clarity, achieve goals. John M. Hawkins' new book, Coached to Greatness, Unlock Your Full Potential with Limitless Growth, published by iUniverse. Hawkins reveals strategies to help readers accomplish more. He believes the book can coach them to greatness. Hawkins says that the best athletes get to the top of their sport with the help of coaches, mentors, and others. He shares guidance that helps readers reflect on what motivates them. Rediscover and assess their core values, philosophies, and competencies. Find settings that allow them to be the most productive and track their progress towards accomplishing goals. Listen to John Hawkins' My Strategy, Saturdays, 1 p.m. Eastern on the BBM Global Network and TuneIn Radio.
Welcome back from the break. We had technical difficulties there, but we've got it figured out now. So we're just going along. This was just going on so good. We were speaking with Miss Debbie Holland today. We're talking about all kinds of things. So if you missed the first half, go back and rewatch it because you will want to. Let's pick up where we left off. So
Okay.
Sam is in college.
Yes.
He's had surgery on his shoulder, and he'd already experienced some previous injuries in school from sports. So what was so difficult about the shoulder?
The pain, and not realizing that we shouldn't be giving him pain medicine.
Yes.
So in college was not the setting that he needed. Too much freedom maybe, or doing his own thing. It just wasn't him. And part of that was my fault. I wanted my child to go to college, get a degree, blah, blah, blah. We should have thought through that better. And so because of that, it was so easy to get the drugs, that he was already addicted before we even comprehended what was happening.
Yes.
Personality change, bitter, angry, didn't want to come home. The friends that he had are not the friends we've got now. Those types of things were going on.
Okay.
Didn't come home for, we Sam and the kids, they went to church their whole life.
Yeah.
So when they're not wanting to go, you're thinking, oh, okay, what's going on?
Yeah. Yeah.
Type thing. So.
Yeah. So did he stay in college?
No, we flunked out. When you don't go to classes, no, he did not stay. He came home. We tried a community college after that. Was a little better, but then that's when we began to notice, okay, something else is going on here besides just not wanting to go to school. And eventually, through a lot of probably arguing that should not have happened, we finally got him to tell us the truth of what was going on.
What was that moment like for you?
Devastating in a way, but it was also a relief. I know what's wrong,
Yeah, it's the not knowing that
drive you crazy. Then the process of finding help for him, we had no clue what to do. We were so naive.
What year was that?
That would have been 1990. 2011, about 2012.
Which there in our area there
was nothing.
There were no resources at that time.
And plus, he had to go through withdrawals. Well, there was no rehab center takes you that we could find through withdrawal. Once you got through that, they would take you. So he ended up having to go what I just basically layman's terms mental hospital that got through the withdrawal, then went to rehab. At about 5 hours away from here, stayed there for almost 6 months. We kept renewing it, letting him stay as long as they felt like they were helping him. During that time, it was not faith-based, and I think he lost a lot of his spirituality during that time.
Yes.
Which broke my heart. Because that was at the point where he did not want me to talk about God. Don't talk to me about it. Don't, that's when he began to think, you've pushed religion on me, those types of things. So we had to back up and go a different direction that I didn't know how to handle, honestly. He came back to Macon County. And again, we tried AA meetings, which were nothing wrong, but that was not his problem at that time, or he thought it that way. Let's say that's the way we should say it. And that were older people. He did not relate. Now, this is his excuses. This is not good excuses, but an excuse. So there, he felt like, what am I doing? I don't go to meetings because they don't relate to me. So what happens? You go right back into it.
Yeah. How long did he have his
He
stretch that he was
had
clean?
almost a year,
Mhm.
a good year,
Mhm.
I would say. During that time, he met a young lady, and they got engaged. Um, and then I don't know if it was pressure from thinking I'm getting married, or I just don't really know what happened.
Mhm.
But all of a sudden, he quit that. Um, so he just went right back into, he tried to. My husband has his own business, so he
Mhm.
worked for my husband. Well, then he got mad about that. So
Mhm.
he quit that.
Did you know right away that he had relapsed?
Yes, you could tell. It was back into the old pattern of everything made him angry.
Mm.
We didn't pay him enough, or we didn't trust him enough, or we were always not doing it right.
Yeah.
And that was never like him. He had the most loving, oh my goodness, personality of any child you've ever seen in your life.
Isn't it
He would
so
hug
sad?
you, everybody. He loved
Yeah.
everybody.
It is so sad to see
Mhm.
how substances,
Mhm.
It just takes who you are at the
Oh.
core. I try to teach people that are in recovery in
Mhm.
addiction, when they're feeling the shame and the guilt of
Mhm.
this personality that manifests from
Right.
using, that's not you.
Right.
That's not you.
Mhm.
Was it you in the moment and
Mhm.
operating? Yes, but not to the core of who God made you to be.
Exactly.
So to
And-
try to separate that a little bit.
And with Sam, he was so loved by the community
Oh,
that's what, people would even notice it. He would be out doing something, and Mike and I would get a phone call.
Mhm.
This is not typically your child.
Yeah. What was that like?
Well, there's where pride hits you again.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, what will people think?
Yeah.
But I'm thankful they did.
Mm-hmm.
Very thankful they did. It hurt at the time.
Mm-hmm.
When people call you up and go, hey, he's not paid rent for 3 months, we're going to kick him out.
Mm-hmm.
Or, these types of things. He's not paying his bills. You somewhat enabler
Mm-hmm.
that you don't want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you don't want to see your child homeless.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's a fine line, and I'm sure that Mike and I probably did not handle it correctly.
There's no one size fits all.
Yeah, but there was just, we were just kind of stuck. Felt like.
Yeah. Couldn't go forward, but you couldn't
go back up. Mm-mm. And like you said earlier, you don't stop loving them.
No.
They're your child forever and ever.
Even in the adult years.
Yes.
So he relapsed. He went. So how long was he back in his addiction at that time?
Probably from well, I'd say it started back up in 2014, and then he died in 2015.
Wow.
So it didn't last
not
long.
very long.
Mm-mm.
Now, did he die from
an overdose of opioids?
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. Like, where
he was had an apartment,
Mm-hmm.
And probably had been together with a bunch of people. We really don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We got the knock on our back door on a Sunday morning. We were getting ready for church, and that he is unresponsive in our hospital.
Oh, wow.
So we take up there, and the policeman that met us, the detective, goes to church with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I could just tell by his face it was too late to do anything. They thought it might be something to the death. So we were not, this is one thing for parents. I don't know how you handle certain things. Looking back, they wanted to know if we wanted to see him.
Mm-hmm.
And of course we did.
Mm-hmm.
But that's about the worst thing I've ever seen. Your child's laying there with his eyes open, but he's gone. And you're not allowed to touch him.
Oh.
And I can just remember thinking, this isn't happening. But he did. And then, investigating and, thinking maybe something foul play, all this stuff, the police are trying to figure out.
Mm-hmm.
And you just finally just say, he's gone. It doesn't matter now what went on.
A point of acceptance.
Yeah, you have to accept. One thing that we didn't plan on, the people that sold him some of these drugs actually came to try to collect money from us afterwards.
For the drugs. Wow.
And I can remember thinking, listen, buddy, you're messing with a mama that her child just died and you're the one that killed him.
Wow.
Even though he took him. I told him, I said, if you know what's good for you, you're going to be gone. And you think, how did they have the nerve? But again, they're not thinking straight.
Yeah.
Things are going on that they don't have control.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So
being a parent's tough enough, but being a parent having to deal with addiction in your grown children,
right,
or mental health or any other kind of thing, it's so tough.
Yeah.
Wow.
Watching them, they're suffering.
Yeah.
And you can't fix it.
Yeah.
And I think I'm a fixer. Could not
There's
fix
a solution for everything.
Mama, fix it.
Yes.
Yeah. And it just is not something you can fix.
And on top of that, even though you couldn't fix it, it's probably twice as hard when they don't want you to fix it.
Yes.
Yeah. Because then you have to get in a whole new lane.
Yes.
As mamas, we want to keep flipping rocks until we find the solution. But when they say, flip no more rocks for me,
you have to back up.
Oh, that's a hard space to sit in.
It is.
How did you get through that? Well, I tell you what.
You going to take a break?
Let's take a break. Because we might be on that for a minute. So we're going to take a quick break. Okay. And we're going to come back and see how she made it through that.
All righty.
Did you know that your beliefs create your entire reality, but it's the subconscious beliefs that do most of the creating? Belief shifter and life coach Shiraz can help you identify those limiting beliefs and eliminate them, often in a single session.
It was almost instant. I had relief right away.
Creating better health, relationships, careers, and finances. Let Shiraz help you step out of safety and into awareness.
Definitely something's happening. It's like a flow inside. It feels good.
Whether in person or online, Shiraz provides personal coaching, belief shifting. Visit Shiraz at energeticmagic.com or call 416-529-7429. Energetic Magic on the BBM Global Network, Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern. Find your greater happiness. Be well. Be aware. Be magical.
Are you struggling to care for elderly parents or a spouse? Do you wonder if being a caregiver is making you sick? Are you worried about taking time off work to care for elderly parents and balance work, life, and caregiving? Has caregiving become exhausting and emotionally draining? Are you an aging adult who wants to remain independent, but you're not sure how? I'm Pamela D. Wilson. Join me for the Caring Generation radio show for caregivers and aging adults, Wednesday evenings, 6 Pacific, 7 Mountain, 8 Central, and 9 Eastern, where I answer these questions and share tips for managing stress, family relationships, health, well-being, and more. Podcasts and transcripts of the Caring Generation are on my website, PamelaDWilson.com, plus my caregiving library, online caregiver support programs, and programs for corporations interested in supporting working caregivers. Help, hope, and support for caregivers is here on the Caring Generation and PamelaDWilson.com.
Welcome back from the break. We are speaking with Miss Debby Holland today, and who has just the most amazing testimony. And we're just going to jump in and pick right back up where we left off.
All right.
You have shared some really raw, moments with us today, and I thank you for that. Tell me, how in the world did you and your husband get through those hard times?
As I said before, the only thing is God.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that we depend on, our friends.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it was not all pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
After his death, I think that I wrapped myself up in my parents that were elderly, moved them to Lafayette so I could take better care of them. So I really began to just jump right into something else so that I didn't have to think of a lot of things. Then, as I tell everybody, it took me 7 years to process everything. I'm a slow learner, apparently. So it took me 7 years to really wake up and think, okay, you've been going through the motions for 7 years, loving God. God is not happy with me right now. Even though he understood, he was trying to tell me, get up, get moving, you can do this. I've lost my son. So he knew exactly how I felt.
Oh, yes.
And so he really talked to me through different people. I can remember us singing at church, "It Is Well With My Soul."
Oh.
I couldn't sing it. I was not well with my soul. I was bitter. I was angry. All of those emotions. And finally, one day, it just clicked with me. Hey, he knows how I feel. He still loves me, even though I made mistakes, Mike made mistakes, that we can get through this. And when that clicked, everything else seemed to fall. I found waymakers. I found different places to put myself out there to possibly be hurt again. You know, a lot of times you put this up because I don't want to be hurt again. So those things, taking care of my parents was an honor. Again, I had two wonderful, wonderful parents, and my daddy will be gone just a year in a few days. And they taught me what true love was on this earth. They were married 72 years.
Oh, wow.
And,
wow.
Yeah, that's what how did you do that? You know, and every day, I mean, Daddy would hold her hand or kiss her or just little things. And I thought, this is what love is all about.
Yeah.
And we can survive.
Yeah.
And the reward we've got coming, oh, hallelujah. I can't wait.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
So those are the things that keep you holding on.
Yeah.
And I have a good husband. That helps too.
Yes, he's a good one. But it is so comforting to know that our Heavenly Father knows exactly what we feel. He knows exactly, you know, what we go through.
Right.
And no matter what we go through, Jesus felt it first.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And God knows exactly what it's like to lose a child.
Yes.
You know, so for people out there that are struggling with that, you know, he knows. He gave up Jesus in a gruesome way.
A gruesome way.
Yeah. For
and he had done nothing wrong.
Right. For all of his children.
Yes.
So yeah. Well, so tell me, if you could leave any message with everything, you know, because you've been through different things, the teaching, the adopting, not being able to have children, you know, to the adoption process, and then going through the addiction and then losing that child. If you could leave parents or listeners with anything today, what would you leave them with?
You need a support system. You need to be careful who you pick for a spouse. You really have got to have faith in a higher power. This world isn't our home. Right. And that gives me so much encouragement. You can hang on till this is not here. Love unconditionally. That doesn't mean you agree with them. That doesn't mean you might not argue with them. But when it boils down to everything, your love is there. And like I said earlier, I used to think love conquers everything. Well, it doesn't conquer everything, but it heals.
Yes.
It heals.
And it
everything.
sustains.
Yes.
So
be aware. Be aware and pick friends carefully. People you can confide in and trust in will help more than anything.
And for those of you who are listening who haven't been through something like that, but maybe you know people who have, is to be a safe space for them. Be a safe space for them to be able to show that raw emotion without judgment. You know, you can answer to this better, but there's probably days where you just want somebody to listen. You didn't want an opinion. You didn't want any feedback. You just
don't want to try to fix it.
Don't want anybody to fix anything. Just need somebody to listen in those moments. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give somebody is praying for them and listening to them. Just sit with them where they're at. I go back to Job, you know, like you're sitting here talking and I'm thinking about Job in the Bible so much, you know, and everything he went through. And, you know, he had friends that came and sat with him. And they were trying to tell me, you probably did this wrong. You probably did that wrong. And, you know, they meant well. But that one, you know, that one friend, the one youngest one that was there who spoke up and just like you said, hold on, because this is not the end all be all. This is not the greater things are yet to come. So, Miss Debbie, I want to thank you so much for coming on here today.
Thank you for having me.
I thank you for sharing this story because you can provide so much encouragement and faith to so many people on so many levels. So never stop sharing it. Never put a lid on that. And
well, this thing won't be closed for until I'm in the ground.
Well, thank you all for tuning in today. Please share this with people that you think might could benefit from it. If you want to catch our show each week, it's The Way to Break Free on Bold Brave TV. So like and subscribe from anywhere that you're listening to, and you can join us live each time. Or you can go to their website, YouTube channels, or go to any of your listening streams, and you can catch the replay later. So like, share, and just help spread her story and spread the word of hope, because there's a lot of people who out there who are needing to hear those very things. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Thank you, Bold Brave TV. We'll catch you next week.
Thank you.
This has been The Way to Break Free with your host, Angela Pedigo. The one thing Angela attributes her personal victories to is her relationship with God and her deep faith. Tune in each week and hear stories and testimonies of people in personal and professional trenches and how they overcome them with their own faith in God. The Way to Break Free has something for everyone, everywhere. Right here, Wednesdays, noon Eastern on the Bold Brave TV network.